Welcome to Special Needs Palace, Faith and Action. My name is Eva Alphonse, a professional in special needs and early childhood development. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell for you to be notified anytime a new video is out. Also, don't forget to give the video thumbs up and share the video for everyone to get informed about special needs, for we are creating an informed society, a society free from stigma and depression because of special needs. In today's video, we're going to talk about types of special needs. Before we continue, I would like you to know that every individual in the special needs club is very different from each other. Whatever method of intervention that may work for one may not work for the other. Whatever therapies that may work for one may also not work for the other, despite them having the same diagnosis. Every individual got different challenges and got different methods that can work for them to bring out the best out of them. Now, on the types of special needs is divided into four major parts. The four major parts of special needs are, or the four major types of special needs are physical disorders, behavior disorders, developmental disorders, and sensory disorders. To begin with, let's look at the physical disorders of special needs. Now, in the physical disorders category, these are disorders that limit the physical functioning of an individual. An individual is limited maybe in posture, in movement, and in maintaining balance. So in this category, you can easily tell that an individual got physical disorders because from the way they appear, they need some assistance either of materials or support from someone in order for them to be functional or to function in a normal way. So in this case, you find that one needs maybe a wheelchair, crutches, or just a support material that can help them to move around and operate on their daily lives. The second category that we're going to look at is the developmental disorders. In developmental disorders, these are just disorders that affect the normal development of a child or an individual. In this case, we find that they either get affected in communication and other skills like intellectual skills. So, examples of developmental disorders, we have number one, autism. Autism is a neurological disorder that affects the communication skills, social skills, and behavior of an individual. In communication skills, you can find that a child or an individual cannot pass information or request for what they want like any other child. For example, when you ask them the name, maybe his name is John, just using an example of John. So when you call them John, they may not be able to respond to you, but they might be able to respond to other sounds by acting on them. For example, when you're using your blender and the noise from the blender gets to John, wherever John is, you will see him closing the ears. But when you call the name John, John will not be able to respond to his name. This is because the behavior of the individual is not just developing as it is required to be. So in this case, you can tell that John ignores his name, but hears the other noises in the environment and is able to respond to the noise by covering the ears. This means that the behavior of the individual is affected in one way or another. In communication, you can find that John does not exactly produce what is expected to be produced. For example, when you ask John, "What is your name?" you expect John to answer, "My name is John." But in this case, John can answer it through echolalia. Echolalia is simply repeating what the individual person is saying instead of answering the question. For example, when you ask him, "What is your name?" and he responds by, "What is your name?" What is your name? What is your name? That is what we call echolalia. So in this case, you find that the communication skills of a child or an individual are affected. Another example of developmental disorder is cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is a need that affects the development of an individual in terms of movement, posture, and the way they balance themselves or they maintain balance. So in this case, you find that the brain is affected because cerebral means something to do with brain and palsy means weakness. So in one way, the muscles are kind of weak. Moving on to the next, let's look at sensory disorder. So in sensory disorder, we all know that we have 5 major senses: sense of sound, sight, smell, touch, and taste. So in this case of sensory disorder, the brain is affected in one way or in another way. The way it processes information, the way it receives and sends information is affected in one way or another way. So even the senses are also affected. Examples of sensory disorders are blindness, deafness and dumbness. We also have children who are affected with their sense of touch, in that there are some who only want to be massaged, others don't want to be massaged. That means their sense of touch is affected in one way or another way. Some also have problem in their sense of taste. They only like sweet foods or sometimes will like only savory foods. So this means their senses are affected in one way or another way. The last bit of special needs is behavioral disorder. An example of behavioral disorder is attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. In this disorder, you find that a child has a problem with attention and could be overly active. For example, if you put for him a cartoon movie to watch, let's say Mickey Mouse, you expect this child to concentrate on the Mickey Mouse for about 5 or even 10 minutes. But their attention is shifted. One time they're thinking of Mickey Mouse, the next minute or second they're thinking of drawing or something else. And even in drawing, they could not draw an image to completion. This means that their attention is not just right. The attention keeps on shifting from one activity to another activity. I hope this video was helpful to someone and that you have gained something about special needs. That's all for today. See you in the next video. Thank you very much for your love and support and for listening and watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a thumbs up. That's all for today. See you next time. My name is Eva Alphonse.